I'm glad to be here with my business partner since 1996, David Moore. He and I started Trinity Strategic Wealth together, and we're excited to roll out Mazzei Method rule number 3, which is buy a home, don't rent. And we hope, obviously, Dave, for the clients that they can use this information for their kids and their grandkids. Historically, we've always looked at, it's really better for young professionals as soon as possible to buy rather than rent. Right. But we're in this weird state of the economy. Home prices have gone up. Mortgage rates are pretty high. So I've been getting the question more and more on this topic. Historically, why have we always told young professionals, kids of clients, it's better to buy than rent?
Well, it's the American dream, Mike. You buy a house, you have kids, you work, you retire, and then you have a house to stay in that's paid for, and your bills are lower. But generally, it's better to buy a house because when you're renting a house, you're pretty much paying somebody else. It's not an asset to you, so I think that's really the big one, is that you're not getting anything out of it. So it's about building assets, building wealth over time, and when you're renting, you're just not doing that.
And most financial experts have always, kind of agreed on that. Now, ironically, my own daughter, Michaela, is 25. Yeah. She's in her 3rd year of nursing, kind of like your daughter, Laura, who's also a nurse.
Right.
She's decided, in her case, to not buy a house this year, having, finished nursing school, moving out on her own. She was a little concerned about high prices. She didn't want a mortgage rate of 7.5% or 8%.
Right.
So she thought, I'm just going to rent for a year or two and go from there. Is my daughter the gal of a long-term financial planner making a mistake?
I don't necessarily think so. Rates are high. So you get into a house now, you're going to have a higher payment. You're going to have your mortgage is going to be more. You're going to pay more towards interest. And the economy is cyclical, so rates don't stay high. So you can expect rates to come back down, and it could be in a relatively short period of time. We're not talking years. It could be relatively quickly. So if she's patient and she waits a little bit, she can probably get much better rates, which means lower payment, which means bigger house, potentially.
Absolutely. In the meantime, she's not building home equity, which is always kind of the benefit of being a homeowner, is accumulating that equity, particularly if you can pay a little extra every year against the principal versus just the interest cost. There actually are some, benefits to renting, at least in the short term, which, she and I have discussed a little bit.
Yeah.
What can we tell our clients for their kids and, and grandkids that, in the short term, there are some benefits to renting?
What comes with a house is you got to keep it maintained. You got to fix it. When something breaks, that means costs. But if you're renting, the person renting the house, the apartment, they do it all. So if something goes wrong, you just pick up the phone and say, hey, you need to fix this.
Yeah, she can't call me because I'm terrible at all that
stuff. That's exactly right. And then there's a lot. You're not paying property tax at the time. You're not paying for repairs. You're not paying for heating or utilities. If you can have all that included in your rent, actually. So that is a big, advantage to not buying a home in the short run, though.
The short run. Now, we got married the same year.
We did.
You and Cheryl, Noelle and I got married in 1990.
Yeah, we got married in 90.
Okay, and our wives wanted to get into that first house as soon as possible.
Oh, yeah.
And it didn't really matter that back in the day, mortgage rates were 7%, 8%.
Right.
But we were trying to get properly in a good position to buy that first house.
Right.
What's your advice for those younger professionals?
Mm-hmm.
What do they need to do as there's these unusual circumstances in our economy right now? What do they need to do to get ready for that first home purchase?
Well, we started out talking about interest rates being high. So the problem with when getting ready, let me say that, when getting ready to purchase a house, think of maybe your credit, for example. If you don't have that good a credit, you're going to pay even a higher interest rate. So you want to do things that make those rates come down. So you can build on your credit and improve your credit. The other thing is think about how much you can save or put down on the house. A general rule of thumb is 20%, but if you can even put more down, then you have more equity right away. So the idea about buying a house is to get into it in a more of a streamlined fashion. So think ahead before you just go out and willy-nilly buy a house. So credit's important, and also down payment's important. The other thing I wanted to mention is if you're a veteran, you can get into a house without a down payment.
That's right.
So think about that. So there are
100% financing.
That's right, 100% financing. So, yeah.
And
so before you buy a house, go join the Army.
Did they do that when you got out of the Army?
They did.
They did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
you for your service.
I got my student loan paid off, and then I got my house without a down payment. I remember that.
Yeah. So the economy's gone through some changes. After COVID, we had inflation problem. Feds raise interest rates a lot. Mm-hmm. Maybe, we all kind of think they're done raising interest rates. In the next year or two, mm-hmm. If patterns repeat themselves, or the Federal Reserve does a good job battling inflation, what's kind of the outlook for why interest rates might come down over the next couple of years? Mm-hmm. That could really help mortgage rates for these kids and grandkids of ours.
Right. And also, if interest rates come down, the price of homes theoretically will come down. Part of the problem is as rates went up, people don't want to buy up or buy down. So the inventory, the supply's gone away. And so that may even makes houses more expensive. You got less supply. Supply and demand, right? Price goes up, yeah.
I was talking to one of my home builder friends this week, and things have definitely slowed down.
Yeah, so as rates come down, the inventory will go up. And as the inventory goes up, the price of the houses will go down, and that will be very advantageous.
What do you think the sweet spot for mortgage rates are? What's kind of a range? Obviously, the Fed hopefully doesn't lower rates to zero,
right?
And people aren't going to get to refinance or get rates at 2.5% or 3% anymore. But what would be a nice sort of middle ground?
It's kind of relative, though. You talk to people who bought their first house in the 80s. In the early 80s, and rates were double digits, right? And then rates got down to like 7 or 6%, and they're like, "Whoa,
great!
That's a deal, right?"
Yeah.
And so the consumer now who's buying houses, the millennial, for example, they're used to zero rates, and so it's the other way around. They think that rates at 3 or 4 or 5 have gone up, and they're right, since rates have been zero for so long. But a good rule of thumb for me would be if you're in a 3% like mortgage rate, I think that's kind of a sweet spot. You can also buy down on rates. There's other things you can do as well to improve the rate. And
some builders are offering some incentives themselves to buy down that interest rate.
There are. So you got to do some homework. You don't just go out and buy.
Compare builders, compare mortgage lending groups, do your homework.
Yeah, I would definitely say that rates should come down. 7's high, 6, 5 is high, but I think it's not unheard of that we could see 4 and 3% rates in a relatively short term.
Well, hopefully for our kids and our grandkids and the kids and grandkids of our clients, rates will come back a little bit. They can pursue that American dream, get in the homes that are great for them, great for their families. And that does it for the Mazzei Method rule number 3. Buy a home, don't rent. Thanks for spending some time with us today, and thanks for helping us.
Thanks for having me. I
with
appreciate
your expertise.
Well, thank you. Nice being here.